Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 169, the top 20 episodes of 2011. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the fine folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by weaversdepartmentstore.com, pick up some great Mayberry items. They got all kinds of things over there. The Andy Griffith Show 50th Anniversary DVD and much more. weaversdepartmentstore.com. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by Audible. Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/2chairs. There's over 100,000 titles to choose from that you can listen to on your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, or any MP3 player. You get 14 days free and a free audiobook along with that. So drop by and give it a try. Hello, everybody. I'm your host of Two Chairs No Waiting, Allan Newsome, and it's great to have you with me. This time of year, it's right after Christmas, is a time when we seem to have a whole lot of folks that are, brand new to the podcast because, wow, we have a lot of downloads this time of year. So I wanted to give you guys a chance. Plus, it's the first of the year, 2012. So it's kind of a good time to review what happened in 2011. Well, we're going to run through the top 20 episodes of Two Chairs No Waiting from 2011. Now, before we do, I want to just mention that I've been hard at work during the Christmas break working on a thing called the Mayberry Community. You can get to it at imayberrycommunity.com. You can sign up, and there's all kinds of things there. There's groups, there's boards, there's people there. We've already got about 125 or so members, and there's a Mayberry Squad Car Owners Group. There's the Who's Been Messing Up the Bulletin Board chapter has a group over there. Plus, there's just all kinds of Mayberry conversation that we're trying to get going there. It's brand new, so it's a good time to get started and just join in on the Mayberry fun. So you can drop by iMayberry Community and try to log in and get started. So we hope to see you there, so we can continue this discussion, because Two Chairs No Waiting has a group there as well. So let's head on into this. We want to run through these. There are 20 episodes, and we're going to run through them in reverse order, going from 20 forward. So the first episode of the top 20 countdown was Two Chairs No Waiting, number 18, Tex Foley. So it was all about Tex Foley. You remember Tex Foley, a little boy who was going to run away. He was going to be a sheriff and run off. Well, there's all kinds of information on here about the runaway kid. And there's some unusual things that happen in there with some odd facts where Tex was leaving and stuff. So that's number 20 on our list. The next up was the Taylor Home Inn Part 3. Now, this was the original interviews we did with Marcia Shireman and Dave Shireman about the Taylor Home Inn. Now, since then, we've done another one recently about the cruise to the Taylor home, which was recent episodes. Definitely want to encourage you to go see those. I believe it's like in the 160 range. 166, 167. But this one came in as number 19 for last year. The episode number 42, the Taylor Home Inn, Part 3. And next up, we're at number 18, was the Russell Hiatt interview, Part 2. Well, now, Russell, if you don't know who Russell is, he is the barber in Mount Airy, North Carolina. And I interviewed him back in 1998. So this interview was recorded back then, and it's a fun interview with Russell. And if you go and look there, there's actually a picture of him giving my son his very first haircut. So Adam, who just turned 15, got his first haircut sitting in his mama's lap because he was not about to let Russell cut his hair without mama. So that is number 18. So let's go on into number 17. Number 17, most listened to episode. It had 1,600 downloads. All of these have 1,600 plus downloads that we're going through here. This was episode number 17, and it's a fun one. Burt Miller's Barbershop Flashback. Folks, this is a scene from the Andy Griffith Show between Floyd and Burt Miller that was written by Joe Gritton and performed by me as Floyd and Burt Miller. And it's a lot of fun. You go listen to it. It's almost like being a part of an episode of the Andy Griffith Show. It's like something you heard on a radio show. So this is number 17, Two Chairs No Waiting 17, Burt Miller's Barbershop Flashback. And number 16, it was Stories from Mayberry. Now, Stories from Mayberry, I believe this is when Floyd told some stories about things going on around the barbershop. So you guys need to drop by and listen to that one. I'm going to have to go back and listen myself because this was the number 16 episode of the year, and I really don't remember what it was about. So I'm going to have to go check that one out myself. And this was one of the first year's episodes done back in May 19th, 2009. So this is a good list for you guys if you've not ever heard them or if you haven't heard these episodes, to go back and check them out. Now, number 14 is Jeff Branch. Jeff Branch is the Howard Sprague impersonator that goes around with us performing. And last year, I should say, 2011, he was the DARE Officer of the Year for North Carolina for the DARE programs. And that was a great deal, huge deal for Jeff, and want to congratulate him. And his episode was number 15 on the countdown. So now we're down to number 14. Number 14 was a Taylor Home Inn Part 2. We already talked about that, so you can head over and listen to those. Let's go on to number 13 was David Browning interview. Now, David Browning is the Mayberry deputy. He's our Barney that does all the Barney Fife stuff with most of us on many of the Mayberry events that are held throughout the country. He was on the Confederate Railroad video, Elvis and Andy, and there's all kinds of stuff. You can go and see him at mayberrydeputy.com. But that's David Browning. And then next up is number 12, and it is, what did the mirror say to the dresser? Well, what did the mirror say to the dresser? That was a question that came out, and Harvey Bullock, writer of The Andy Griffith Show, he wrote 32 different episodes of the show. He answered that question because it was him that wrote the words on the podcast, and it's a lot of fun. You go and listen to that. Did I tell you what the mirror said to the dresser? Was something that was said in Aunt Bee's Romance, and he gives us the answer. So you can go and listen to episode number 31 and find out for yourself. What did the mirror say to the dresser? Next up, we got number 11. Number 11 is Doug Dillard interview in Mayberry Days. So we talked to Doug Dillard. It's a short interview with Doug. He don't have a lot to say. He lets his banjo picking do most of the saying for him. And so we also talked about Mayberry Days during that episode. But it's fun to hear from Doug. He's our banjo playing darling boy. So if you don't know who that is, that's who he is. Now, next up, we're heading into the top 10. So Doug only missed the top 10 by 4 downloads. Just barely missed it. But number 10 is Neal Brower interview part 1. That's episode number 50 of Two Chairs No Waiting. Neal Brower, if you don't know who that is, he wrote Mayberry 101, Behind the Scenes of a TV Classic. And I was able to interview Neal for the podcast, and he's a great guy. He does Professor Brower's class every year at Mayberry Days, and if you've never been to that, it's a sight to behold. And his interview was great fun as well. It's hard for me to believe that's been a year and a half ago when I interviewed him, so that's amazing. So number 9 is Russell Hiatt interview part 1. So we had already run across part 2 earlier, back down at number 18. Well, part 1 is the 9th most listened to episode of Two Chairs No Waiting for the year. So that's another one. You'd want to go back and listen to that. And coming up at number 8 is also a part of the Neal Brower interview. It's number 51, Neal Brower interview part 2. So we got Neal's interview part 1 and part 2 were in the top 10. So that's great. Now we're going to head on real quick because we've already talked about Neal. And David Browning interview part 1, number 22. That came in at number 7. And guess what came in at number 6? Part 2. So you got part 1 at number 7 and part 2 at number 6. And we'd already run across part 3 back down at number 13. So David's 3-parter hit all over the place right there in the top 15. Next up. Oh, and this is a good one. Howard Morris interview. The Howard Morris interview, episode number 34, is number 5 on our countdown. So that's something you want to listen to. Howard Morris, if you don't know who that is, that's Ernest T. Bass himself, Howard Morris. You know, you cannot go wrong with Ernest T. Bass, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Come on, Deputy. Come on. If I'd seen you was coming, I'd know what to do. I'd have raised both arms and I'd have wove at you. Ain't very fast on your feet, is it?
All right, you stand still, Ernest T. Bass, and that's an order.
If a duck stands still, you can catch him by the bill.
Oh, so number 34, the Howard Morris interview is coming in at number 5. Next up is Gary Crain interviews, number 47. Now, Gary's episodes, this is amazing. It's number 4, and it was in the top 10 last year as well. So Gary, I don't know if he has a lot of family or if everybody just loves to hear him talk. Now, Gary is a Gomer Pyle tribute artist, and he's moved out to, I believe, towards Texas now. He's doing stuff out in the Texas area. But let me here. I'll play you a little thing here with Gary, and listen to how well he actually talks like Gomer. So here he is.
I'm fixing to call Cousin Goober. You know what? I don't think he's been listening to that 2 Chairs No Waiting podcast. It's real good and real nice. That's all I got to say. Golly.
So that's Gary. Coming in at number 4, it's episode number 47, Gary Crain interview. Now, coming in at number 3 is listener feedback, number 10, plus some tribute artist stuff. Now, I already did go back and listen to this because this was a number 3 episode, most downloaded, with 2,196 downloads last year. And this podcast came out in 2009. So in 2011, 2 years later, it still had over 2,100, almost 2,200 downloads. And I wanted to find out what it was about. It's listener feedback. Why would this be getting so much? Oh, so I did go and listen, and let me tell you, what was fun about it is there's a segment in there that we recorded of the tribute artist, David Browning, myself, Ken Junkin, I think Tim Pettigrew was there, and Jeff Branch. And I can't remember if Phil Fox was there with us or not. I can't remember. But we were sitting around talking in a lobby of a hotel and telling stories about stuff, and I recorded it. And that episode, number 49, which comes in at number 3 on our podcast countdown, has that kind of camaraderie that you can hear among the tribute artists. So it was a lot of fun for me to listen to. I'd forgotten about it because this was, again, from 2009. And I had forgotten what it was about. So anyway, I definitely want you to go check that out. Now, number 2, with 2,363 downloads for the year, was episode number 118, which came out in January of 2011. So that was a 2011 podcast, and it's called Hail to Thee, Miss Mayberry. Oh, hail to thee. Oh, hail. It's called Hail to Thee, Miss Mayberry. And there's all kinds of stuff in this episode, so I definitely want you to go check it out. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fans out there, and we had people call in. We had all kinds of fun that happened on that episode. Hail to Thee, Miss Mayberry, episode number it was the number 2 episode of 2011, and it's episode number 118. So drop by and check that out. Now, the number, I don't have a drum roll. Wait a minute. I need some kind of drum roll. Let's see if I've got something here. That's pitiful drum roll. Number 1 episode for 2011. 2011. I'm glad 2011 is over because I keep saying 2001. With 2,585 downloads was episode number 117, Mayberry Party Line. Was the episode number. And yeah, and it's a funny one. So it's really not funny. Let's give it a claps. There we go. Clapping for the podcast. Way to go. Thank you, folks. Thank you. That's enough. Thanks. Okay. So go check it out. Number 117, Mayberry Party Line. Now, what we actually talk about on that episode was the party line systems. Talking about party lines. There's a lot of people that didn't know what party lines were, didn't remember. And if you remember Mr. Tucker in Band in a Hurry, he was trying to talk on the phone and he couldn't get through them because Maud and Clora from over Mount Pallet, they were talking to each other and they had tied the phone up for 3 or 4 hours. Well, Mayberry Party Line goes into detail about how you have all these party lines and how they work and what's going on there. So that's the top 20 episodes for 2011. Now that's a lot to get started with. A lot of things that you need to go back and check out and review. If you haven't heard them, you need to go check them out. If you have heard them, it might be something you'd be worth going and listen to again, because I don't even remember what some of them are about myself. So you need to head over and just check them out and have some fun there. Folks, hey, I'd like to hear what your favorite episodes were. You can give me a call at 888-684-8415, or you can drop by twochairsnowaiting.com and leave a comment on the show notes of the episodes. Or you can go to facebook.com/2chairs, leave a message there. Or you can just email me at floyd@imayberry.com. But I'd love to hear from you. Voicemail is my favorite, 888-684-8415. So folks, hey, Happy New Year if you're listening to it now. If you're not, happy whatever time of the year it is. I hope the rest of the year is great for you. And folks, we'll see you guys next week on Two Chairs No Waiting, your Mayberry podcast. Bye, guys.